Hello, hello, and welcome to Hygiene Elevated Conversations and Innovations. Tonight we have a very special guest. We have Gina Hanzel, and she is the clinical advisory marketing for PerioVance is kind of your parent company, but it's Orabio. And so we're going to definitely talk about that a little bit more. But Gina, I wanted to start just by getting your background into why you became a dental hygienist. You are an RDH, you stepped outside of clinic, and you are working for a dental company. So tell us a little bit about your journey as becoming a hygienist, what got you interested, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Of course. Yeah, I would say that I really was interested in dentistry from a very young age, probably about 6th grade. I came home from school and I told my parents that I wanted to be an orthodontist. And then from there on, I was kind of obsessed with teeth and smiles, I would say. It was something I always noticed, so I thought maybe I should do this. And then coincidentally, my sister is 9 years older than me. So she left the house when I was, before 6th grade. But she came home about the same time, and she came home and she said, "Mom and Dad, I got into dental school." And I was so mad. And I said, "That's what I want to do. Well, why are you taking it from me?" And so it was kind of a running joke in the family that, my sister stole my profession for a little while. But I just kind of followed that path and I went to school. I went to the University of Minnesota, stayed in the kind of the pre-dental coursework load. So I ended up actually graduating with 2 degrees, with biology chemistry from the University of Minnesota, and then um, started working in a dental office. I did everything from office manager to uncertified assistant, and then just decided that, I really wanted to be chairside. And so that's when I went back to school for dental hygiene. And then I did that clinically for 17 years. And that's what then kind of catapulted me into transitioning out of chairside dentistry. So
Did you ever work with your sister? That's what I want to know.
I never worked with my sister. Never once. I would go to her office when I was in college and, would make myself whitening trays and, all the fun things that I could do just because she was my sister. And so, but I've never worked with her. My whole entire family sees her. None of my family were ever my patients in dental hygiene school because we were in different states. So
Okay.
it was just kind of inconvenient to pull them up here. But all my aunts, all my uncles, all my parents' best friends, they all see my sister in Wisconsin. So it's yeah.
That's like salt on the wound. She stole your profession and then she stole all your patience.
Yeah. Yes. Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
what kept you passionate for 17 years? So I'm not at the 17-year mark. I'm going on my 16 year.
Yeah.
So what has kept you passionate? Because burnout is such a huge topic right now in the dental community.
So I would say I'm passionate and I was burnt out. It's kind of a double-edged sword.
Mhm.
So I really still very much enjoy dentistry. I really enjoy people. I was really good at forming relationships with my patients, trusting relationships. The relationships where if I wasn't in the office, they didn't come in type relationships, which is a good and bad thing, right? We had a
Right.
lot of patient retention because we had really good relationships. I think for me, I had a lot of autonomy in the dental office. I worked for my very first job as a dental hygienist. My very first mentor was really good to me. And one of the things he said to me really early on was, if you don't like what you're doing, you need to change what you're doing because you work every day. So if you can't find joy in your job, it's time to branch out and find something new. And then for the last 11 years, I was in a dental office that I was the sole hygienist for many, many years. We had occasional help, 1 day a week, but I was able to practice very collaboratively with my dentist with a lot of diagnosis control is not the right word, but a lot of diagnosis liberty.
Mhm.
And so I felt really in control of my dental hygiene diagnosis. I felt in control of patient comprehensive treatment. We worked cohesively and collaboratively together on when we were going to phase treatment based on what the patients needed with their restorative care. I had a lot of flexibility to take continuing education classes. If I wanted to bring in the laser, that was no problem. My next thing I was looking into was guided biofilm therapy, and then I never kind of got there because that was kind of when I was starting to transition out. But I was in an office where I had a lot of freedom to do what I wanted and practice the way I wanted, and so that helped me to really feel valued in the office. And I think that's why I lasted so not lasted so long. That doesn't sound right. But we'll go like with the next kind of as we move on. I think we'll probably touch a little bit more on the transition maybe out of clinic too. So yeah.
I love that story. I love hearing that you were able to practice clinically and find joy in it. But I think there does reach that point if you don't have those new challenges or those new things that are happening in clinic, it's easy to get burnout. And so having the right situation, the right clinic, the right technology, that all the relationships, yeah, you wouldn't have lasted as long. I can definitely agree with that.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, Gina, 17 years as a hygienist sounds so cool. Like here I am, I'm barely entering the double digits now. I can now say 10 years, and I'm like, yes, I've made this 10 years, and I
So
love it.
cute. Just kidding.
But Gina, when you and I have been getting to know each other through emails and phone calls, and I really loved your story when you were sharing with me how like one of the pivotal moments was during the was COVID. And I know that so many people can relate to exactly what you were going through. But would you share that story with us?
Sure, of course. So COVID was a Tuesday. I remember it so vividly. It was the 16th of March. We got an email from the dental board, like probably all of us did. It might have happened on the day before or that same day, and it was, you need to cease practice immediately or something like that. And I went up to my dentist. I said, this email can't be real. It's from the Minnesota Board of Dentistry. And he said, well, I didn't get an email. Anyway, fast forward a couple hours. He got the email, and we kind of finished out the day, and that was it. But what it did is it really, so we had 7 weeks. I know some offices went way longer. It depends on, I think there was a lot of regulatory red tape for some of the larger practices and things. So some offices went way longer, and I think other offices went even longer depending upon personal preference. But we went 7 weeks without working. And from day one, my kids were home with me, and they would have been third and fifth grade, I believe. Well, it's been 4 years, so maybe it was second and fourth grade. They were, in the middle of elementary school, which was a great time, I think, for us to be home because on one hand, they didn't miss a lot of school. Education, I was able to help them. I was in a very good position to help them learn. But what it had me doing is it really had me focusing on the time that I didn't have. And what I mean by that is I was getting up early, really early, because I like to work out in the morning. So my alarm rings at 4:30 in the morning. I do my thing. It's kind of my time. Get the house in order. My husband's, getting his things that he does in the morning in order, and I get my things, and I leave at 7 o'clock in the morning, and then I don't get home until nearly 6. And so I was finding the confines of the chair and the schedule really, really restrictive. And so at home, it allowed me to go, okay, I know that I don't want to stay at home with my kids full time, but I don't like the fact that I didn't have that flexibility to have an appointment in the middle of the day if I needed to, stay home with my sick kids. I was missing sporting events later on, right? Fast forward now, 3.5 years later, from COVID, I was not able to have family dinners because I was working late. My husband was the one that was Mr. Mom, kind of running the kids all over, and that's great. I mean, he loved doing it. There was no problem there, but I wasn't I wasn't around. It was, which field are you on? Which gym are you at? Okay, what do I need to do? What's the next step? And so he was like dictating where I needed to go because I never knew because I was never home.
Mhm.
And I started to realize that I was ready to take control of my time. I knew that with my degrees and with my clinical experience and with my people skills, I would be able to do something in dentistry that would keep me out of clinic full time. I didn't know if that was going to be full time out of clinic or if it was just going to be I'd work part time in clinic and do something else. And so I really made it my second job, to be honest with you. I made networking was really important to me. I knew that I had to completely redo my resume. I watched resume seminars and how to this and how to that and how do I transfer my skills that I have from clinic to the real world and non dentistry, clinic. And then I networked my face off. I mean, it was I was quote unquote knocking on doors and kissing babies. Um, I anybody and anyone that would talk to me, um, can you meet for virtual coffee? I was sending Starbucks gift cards. I was sending, Target gift cards. Thank you for your time. $5, nothing crazy, but I appreciate you reaching out and taking time to see me or talk to me. And I just started looking at jobs that I thought might interest me. And what I would do then is I would reach out to those people in those positions, whether it be 3M or whether it be Henry Schein. I was looking in the dental world, right? And I would reach out to John Doe that worked at Henry Schein and say, I see that you do this job. I'm looking at doing this job. Can you give me pointers? Who can I talk to? Who's your supervisor? How can I get in his or her ear? And a lot of times everybody, they're willing to help you. And so that's kind of how I made connections. And then it just kind of snowballed from there.
I give you props for taking so much initiative, and especially when you were already on a time crunch.
Yeah.
You took that like, okay, this is my precious little time. I'm going to use it to achieve a goal. And you did.
Yeah.
That's
Nights, um, watching TV, lunch breaks, baseball games in between innings. I mean, I was kind of I lived on my phone for quite a while, because I just did it in between the cracks of life, you know, patient canceled. I might be, sending a quick message or, you know, yeah, yep.
And Gina, thank you for sharing that story because I
Mhm.
loved it. I was like, oh my gosh, like we talk about networking and how important it is, but the groundwork that you laid out is a little more unique than what we've heard before. So
Yeah. Mhm.
thank you for sharing that because I feel like there's going to be somebody listening that's going to start doing exactly what you did.
Mhm.
I got an interview with a company, and I don't need to name drop the company, but I knew that I wouldn't get the job. I mean, it was a huge position, one that I was not qualified for, and I knew I wasn't qualified for it. And when I got the notice to have an interview, he interviewed me and he said, "You're the only person outside of the company that's getting an interview, and it's because you know so and so. How do you know her?" And I said, "I don't know her. I met her 2 weeks ago. We chatted over Zoom with coffee. She told me who to contact. And then she said she'd tell you that she talked to me." And he's like, wow. I don't know if he was annoyed or if he was thinking, wow, that was really forward or what. But I thought, well, I can't lie to him. I don't know her. I only know
Yeah.
a small little tidbit of what we talked about. I know where she lives, and he just laughed. But we talked a long time. And then what that did was that strengthened my interview skills. It helped me with follow up. He followed up with me again, actually twice. And then it was when I applied again to another position, it was, oh, I spoke with this person on such and such a date. He can speak to my interview or whatever if they needed a reference. So, um, yeah, it was kind of a backdoor way of finding the right person to talk to, I guess. Yeah.
That's you leverage all of your
Yeah.
skills. So good job. So how did you come across Orabio?
Sure. So in a this is kind of a long story, but in a very unique way, Orabio found me because of my network. So the CEO had reached out to me just a little over a year ago on LinkedIn. We had a personal connection because we had both lost our father. And I had said something maybe about it in a post um, a few months before. And, that's how he made a personal connection. And he said, I'd love to chat. I have, some things, you could help me on with an opinion. And I thought, okay, great. And of course, the second we got off the first message, I Googled my face off and figured out who this person was, and looked at the credentials and realized very quickly that I would be a fool to not discuss whatever he wanted me to discuss. But we talked for a really long time, and got to know each other over a few Zooms. And then he wanted me to meet his business partner, or the VP of marketing, who happens to live by me geographically. We're only about 20 miles from each other, which is wonderful. And so then we met for coffee several times. And from there, we were able to form a collaboration where I was still working full time. But if there was anything that they, hey, we want your opinion on this, or can you help us with the copy of this, article, or what do you think about this research, item for this product or whatever. And so I started just really slowly integrating, and then from there it just became more and more, and I was considered more of a part-time consultant. And so I did work with them for about 6 months at night and on weekends, and they were really very great about making sure that I wasn't overwhelmed with work, because they knew I was working full time. But it was a great way for me to integrate into a role that was non-clinical but still in dentistry. So I think in a way it was mutually beneficial, because he could see that I could integrate into the company, and we could he could feel me out, really, I suppose. That was never said in so many words, but it worked out mutually, I think, quite well. And then I started full time in October. So from about March to October, we were doing a couple different projects.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was definitely going to be the next question, is how did that transition process look? I think let me ask you this question, because I think sometimes there's a lot of hygienists that are looking for that transition. How did you stay focused and passionate about your clinical hygiene while you were getting that step out? Because I think that's kind of so hard to keep that passion and that focus when your mind is on the opportunity of what you've kind of been working for, what you were laying down that groundwork for. So how did you kind of keep that passion during that transition?
I think it's personality based, to be honest with you. I think some people just have it in them and some people don't. I just am somebody that gives you 1,000% no matter what I'm doing. And I'm not going to say I had perfect days, because there were days that I ran out of the office. I mean, because everybody does. They're like, oh my gosh, I just have to get out of here. I've had too much today. But I don't work 50%. I always work 100%. And I had a lot of responsibilities at my office, so I couldn't not work at 100%. There was always something to do. And as you know, post-COVID, there was always trying to find assistance, and then, working on trying to get extra patients in, and then, so there was a lot of staffing things, and there was ordering, and there was, budgeting, and there was so much that I had to do. But there was always that part of me, I always have hygiene. I'll never, ever not have hygiene. So I have to make sure that I still love hygiene if something doesn't work out. but there was always that light where I could see it open. You could, if you, the farther you get into the tunnel, the more light there is as you get closer to the opening. So there was days when it was like, oh my gosh, it's so, I can see it. It's coming. And then there'd be a setback because of X, Y, and Z. And it was like, okay, it's coming. And then there'd be more light. And then it was kind of up and down for a little while, but it was a great transition, and I am fortunate that I was able to do it this way, because when I jumped in full time, it wasn't a shock. I had, the work ethic was there. I'm working all the time. I mean, I work at least 40 hours a week. I mean, somebody had said to me, so now that you're home, are you more flexible? Absolutely. I'm more flexible with my time. If I need to have a dental appointment for myself in the middle of the day, I schedule the time. But then I usually will work early in the morning, or I'll work later, or, so there's a lot of flexibility in time, but there's not, I'm still working,
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So Gina, I'm curious. Did you have anybody like giving you guidance through this process? Anyone mentoring you? I mean, was Mr. Mom super supportive of these changes?
That's a really good question. We'll start on Mr. Mom. My husband is he's very analytical. He's very practical. He keeps me grounded. He's the black to my white. I'm the one that's like, woo! And he's like, shh.
I think you just described my marriage.
So he was like, not in so many words, is this like a really legit thing? Like, how do you know this is legit? And I said, well, I have lots of reasons to believe that it's legit. But he's always been really supportive of whatever I want to do, because we make such pragmatic decisions together. We've always done that, and for 20 years, we've never really gone so far astray that we can't pick ourselves back up. And so this was no different. It made it way easier to transition, knowing that I could always fall back on a career. And I think that was something too, where there was going to be work for me no matter what. Mm-hmm. So I need to take this risk. But mentors, I would say, my very best friend, who I worked with closely, I told her months in advance, because I felt like she was a life partner. And I didn't want to spring that on her. And so she told me, she kind of went through like the 7 stages of grief, where, she was like really excited, and then super jealous, and then really supportive, and then really mad, and like I deserted her. And then she'd go back to the really happy, but she listened to me, she listened to the manic texts, and the great texts, and the worry texts, and the super excited texts. But I think mentor wise, because I was spending so much time online with LinkedIn, there's so many powerful women online, especially the LinkedIn platform. So many women that I was following and listening to, that I would say indirectly, they don't know it, but indirectly helped me to really push myself outside my comfort zone and become somebody that I knew that I was. I just needed to believe that I was. And then of course, all the people that I sent coffee to, because they took time for me. I would say it's kind of all encompassing. I had a really supportive husband, like I said, even though he's the calm one. So
you need that grounding when you're like in something that's so, I don't say abstract, but like there's nothing tangible necessarily. So you need that grounding.
Yeah. When my first paycheck came in, and it was like the real payroll paycheck, he's like, oh, okay, all right, we're legit now. like he was doubting it from he wasn't doubting it, but it was.
Sounds like my husband, for sure.
And then on my birthday, which was 3 months into like the whole employment, he wrote me. He's just quiet and, not out there and real chill. And he wrote me this big long letter about, I knew you could do it. And I was like, so yeah, so that was nice. Yeah.
That is so sweet. No wonder
Yeah.
you guys have been married 20
Yeah,
years.
20 October will be 20 years. We've been together 22, so yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, Gina, hey, I want to turn a corner here and I want to spend some time tonight talking about the PerioVance, the oral rinse.
Yes.
Because I like this product way more than I was expecting to. I actually just had my teeth cleaned on Friday, and I couldn't stop talking about it to my new hygienist. I'm like, hey, have you tried this? Have you heard of this?
Yeah.
And so I've been geeking out about it. But would you tell us more about what makes this like unique and how it addresses specific dental needs?
Sure, of course. Before I do that, I'm going to kind of segue into Orabio and kind of what makes us unique, and then I'll go
Oh,
into
please do. Yeah.
go into the product because I think it kind of all wraps in. So Orabio is an oral healthcare company. So founded in 2021, so a relatively new company. The CEO has over 30 years of dental experience with product development. He was an executive at Henry Schein, and then the VP of marketing as well. Over 30 years of dental experience, worked at 3M, had his own dental advertising firm. So they bring a lot of knowledge. But what PerioVance is PerioVance is the brand. So if you can think about Orabio as kind of the umbrella parent company, everything that's falling under the umbrella is going to be PerioVance, whether it be the PerioVance oral anesthetic rinse or our dry mouth line of products that are coming out. If you see PerioVance, that's the brand of products, and so you'll see that before all of our products. But what makes the PerioVance unique and what makes us unique is that my job with the company really is to meet hygienists and do hygienist outreach, because I know and we know that hygienists really are the heart of the dental office. We kind of are the pulse of what's coming in and out. And if we can help hygienists with products that are going to help them with their efficiency to practice as a clinician and also benefit patients, we've hit, the sweet spot in products. And what we did before with the PerioVance oral rinse, and one of the things that I was able to do as a consultant or as kind of a freelance hygienist for the company, is actually test PerioVance oral rinse before the company decided to actually really bring it on as a product. The goal was to have hygienists in the market across the US test it, tell us what they thought, do they think it's going to work? And then we kind of decided from those results and from that data that yes, we were going to move forward with this product. But also, as most of my position really is to make sure that implementation of the products, whether it be the oral rinse or the products coming down the pipeline, they're able to be integrated into dental offices seamlessly because a hygienist is helping you understand and utilize them. So I do a lot of education. I do a lot of webinars for offices with products and integrating them into the office. So now we segue kind of into what the PerioVance oral rinse is. It's an anesthetic mouth rinse. It's 60 seconds to activate full mouth anesthesia for the patient. It's mucosal anesthesia, so it's really great for patients that have gingival sensitivity, inflammation, moderate to severe gingivitis patients, for comfort for their dental appointments. It's great for gaggers because it will give you anesthesia and decreases that gag reflex. It's also more comfortable for mandibular tori. It's great for impressions. It's great for patients that don't like to have full mouth probing because you can take that edge off, right? Even the healthiest patient is sometimes sensitive with probing. Also, it's great for patients that have autoimmune conditions where they may have lichen planus flares, or they may have oral canker sore flares. They might have burning tongue syndrome. So there's a lot of indications out of the dental office that the product is useful for. But right now, we're finding it really useful for clinicians to help them with enhancing their pain management care for their patients with a really easy solution that's not going to also cost the dental office a lot of money to provide, We know that a lot of the subgingival anesthetics are fairly expensive. They work fabulously. I'm not saying that they do not, but the PerioVance rinse helps to bridge that gap. It gives clinicians something that they can use before they have to go to those options to really help keep their patients comfortable.
And I may be obsessed with it. I like it so much. You described it perfectly. It's the step before the expensive stuff.
Yep.
And I love using the expensive stuff, but then I'm also like very cautious. Like, wow, that was a lot of money for the office to buy. Like, do we need it right now? Right. And then you're like, but they need it. They need it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're thinking about it, they need it. With this bottle, it's just, I'll describe it. It's the bottle with the little powder in there. You add some water, shake it up, add more water, shake it up the rest of the way. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, Gina. We've got 2 weeks to use that bottle before it's gone, right?
Yes.
I thought, gosh, I only work part-time. Am I going to be able to use this bottle up before the 2 weeks? I think I was done with it in like 5 days. And, I'm only in clinic 3 days a week. So I used up that whole bottle. And it was anybody who needed a gingival cleaning, the gingivitis, the D4346 cleaning. And anybody who's flinching and flopping all over. I'm like, you know what? Let's try this.
Yeah.
And, or the ones that are like, super sensitive to the ultrasonic, but you really want to use the ultrasonic, right? I'm like, let's try this rinse and then let's see if you can handle the ultrasonic now. And that worked really well for me too. I told you, I was telling my hygienist about it. I'm like, hey, have you heard of this? Have you tried it yet? So I'm going back to the office for some dental work later on this week. So I will be bringing her some information on how to get it in her office. Amanda, what were your thoughts on the oral rinse?
So Gina gave me 2 bottles, which was wonderful. The first bottle, I feel like it was perfect timing because I feel like I went through a crazy phase of patients that needed full mouth SRP and could not come back like at another time. Like they needed it for whatever reason. And we had 1 day to do full mouth and insurance would allow it. So what I was using, I was basically having them swish with the PerioVance. And then I didn't have to do topical. So my patient wasn't sitting there with like, the voodoo doll look with like 8 little cotton tips coming out of their mouth for all the places. And I don't love giving a palatal if I don't have to. There's a time and a place where you need it.
Yeah.
But these were all, I didn't have to do palatals, which was fantastic, and had great success with that. So I think I used quite a bit of the PerioVance for basically a topical in lieu of a topical in that instance where I was going to have a ton of little spots to do those injections. So it saved so much time because you have to wait 2 minutes for the topical versus this is 1 minute and you're done. Plus you get that soft tissue palatal anesthesia. I really liked that. I really, really liked that. And then I love 4346. It's my favorite thing to do ever. And it's so much more comfortable for the patients. And then you feel a little less bad about all the things that are happening in there. And you're like, this is the best. So I really did like it. I think there's so many applications. I think, Gina, when you and I did not the podcast, but when we did the webinar, I feel like we just sat there and talked about, and you can use it for this, you can use it for this, you can use it for this, like just brainstorming all the ways that you can use this product to achieve a multitude of results to just have a better patient experience. And that is currency, right? Like we want our patients to have such a good experience in our chair. We want to reduce that nervousness for some people, when they have sensitivity or they're, gingivally sensitive, whatever it is, having another option that's very economical,
Mm-hmm.
in our quiver, if you will. Yes, that's economically sound. That's up Joffrey's alley for sure. I'm like, good products. I don't care.
I love saving money for the dental practice.
Like, I don't care about your money. I just want good stuff.
I think I don't. You said that you said that absolutely perfectly. One pain point, and one, 43, 46 is the wheelhouse for this rinse, because those patients are not in that severe disease stage, right? So
Right.
that is a really great application. The pain point would be, how do I use this product up in 2 minutes or 2 weeks once it's mixed? That's what I get kind of out in the world when I'm talking about it. And like you said, there's so many versatile uses that that's where I help to educate dental offices on how they can implement the rinse, and not just the 43, 46 patients, but like you said, as a precursor to local injection. Absolutely. I just was on the phone today on a video call, actually, with a dentist in California, and she said, I loved it for when I had to do maxillary injections, because she said, I do multiple, and I didn't, just like you, I didn't have to use topical anesthetic all over. The
Right.
patient swished and I could just go for it. So that, that's the second time. That's great. That's the second time today I've heard that. And that's absolutely true. So I would say, as far as the using it in 2 weeks too, there's so many different applications that you can use it for. Even if the assistant is using it, right? The assistant can have their patient swish for the doctor for numbing, or for impressions, or for even crown seats that can sometimes be sensitive along the gingival
Yeah.
margin, things like that. So, yeah.
Well, and it's better, like, I think it gives the patients a little bit more control, because obviously they're not laying back swishing with it, right? Like, at a sink or something like that. I have like a million sinks in my rooms. It's a weird setup. So my patients are very well acquainted with getting up, going to the sink, having their space. So it gives them a little bit of control as well, instead of laying back with the topical in there and they're just like, it's going down my throat. It's going down my throat. Nothing against topical. I still use it. I'm glad it exists. But I think it's just a better option, a more comfortable option in the realm of topical. So I really loved that.
Well, and I'm thinking from the cost standpoint, you didn't use the entire bottle. Maybe there was a little bit left. You're not really throwing away too much, like very, very little money here. Like, it's not a huge waste. And the other alternative is like packaging it very tiny, but that is so much material and waste. So it's like a little bit more of like a green footprint having it in that larger bottle.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of hygienists would get behind. Like, oh yeah, less waste. That sounds great. We throw so many things away, right? But yeah, for me, it really was the price.
On the realm of price, I wrote down from our little webinar that we did, it's $1.99 an application, correct?
Yes, correct.
So do you, and I'm kind of putting you on the spot, do you have like a cost analysis of what like other topical products
I do.
Oh, well, look at that.
I do. I know them well. But I don't know that I want, I could probably name drop a little bit, but I'll just be vague. Sort of vague. So we'll talk about the rinses on the market. The compounded pharmaceutical anesthetic rinses, I believe it's diclonine. Those are in the about $120 range to be compounded in a pharmacy. Very typical to our rinse, but it has to be prescribed to a patient or a hygienist or someone in the office, right? So I have lots of offices that have been using that in the past, and now they're excited that they don't have to spend the money. Wow. If we focus on the other major subgingival players, we have the Oracix, we have the Cetacane. I'm not as familiar with costs of gingercane, but we're looking at $1.99 for full mouth application for the PerioVance rinse. We have about $24 for a full mouth of one of them that has a special applicator. And then we have about $1.50 a quadrant or $6 for a full mouth for the other subgingival injectable. So there is quite a bit of cost savings. I love those other two products very much. I think there's always going to be a place for them. There's going to be times when you'll use the rinse and then you'll supplement with an Orachix or a Acetocane. But yeah, considerable cost savings, and I know those costs keep going up. And one thing that I would say with not so much the Orachix, because it's in a cartridge, right? We've got the Orachix that you place in the cartridge, and then, but that if you don't use the whole cartridge, you basically use it or you lose it. You have to use the cartridge. With the Acetocane, it's a little bit difficult to control that flow, because if you do fill that syringe completely, and you're, expressing it, where you need it, it's going to kind of go all over. It's a little bit messy. So there's a little bit more, I think, waste with that product than there is with others. So yeah, there is quite a big difference in cost.
Yeah. And I like what you said. Like, there's a time and a place for each, product, and not throwing shade on any of those, because gingercane is very close to my heart. But it's just, you have the right tool for the job. You have the right tool for the job.
Yep.
So,
and I think we'll always have them. I don't think they're never going away, and that's not the intention. But I think we can help with supplementing in certain circumstances, because I think even if we even talk about local anesthetic, our product is natural. It's all natural. It's alcohol free. It contains xylitol. There's no toxins in it. Those clinicians and doctors that are really concerned about non-toxic products are usually not using a lot of the injectables because of the toxicity of them. We don't have any issues with toxic overload with this product, and so that's one benefit as well.
No, that's definitely a.
So, Amanda, would this fall in the realm of holistic dentistry? Because I know that is your jam.
I can't say I know enough about PerioVance to make an educated statement, but I love everything that Gina just said.
As did I.
So, yeah. Okay. I think I had a question and I forgot it. So, Joffrey, go ahead, continue on while I try to remember what the question was.
Okay. So, Gina, while Amanda's thinking of her question here, for our dental hygienists and our dentists that want to incorporate this into their practice, what steps would they take to making that happen? How do they get this in their office?
So we do not ship through distributor. We are direct to dentist from our warehouse in Tennessee. So what I would suggest is to contact myself or one of my other clinical educators, another hygienist on staff, to help you with an educational webinar so that we can help your staff learn about implementation. But you can go directly to the Orabio website and order from there, and that will directly ship to you. Or you can contact me. We have an 800 number, or you can maybe link. I can certainly have you link my information if you need that as well. But it's directly through our website for ordering. It does come by the case. So there's 12 bottles in a case. And typically with our research and our clinical studies, I had hygienists testing the product regularly. They, I gave them their shipment and they were testing with patients. We're seeing, depending upon the size of the office, about 1 to 2 bottles per week is used. So that gives them kind of a good head start on the product, and then they can order from there. Once they create an account, it's easy. It's just office name, email, password. They have that account with Orabio, and then they can place orders from there.
I think I remembered not specifically a question, but another clinical application. And I think we had talked about like aphthous ulcers, because it never fails. Like, somebody comes in and they've got just this horrifically painful looking lesion. but you got a job to do, but you want it to be a great experience. Is that, I want to say we talked about it, but is that, how
Perfect.
effective is it?
It's absolutely perfect for that application. It's also going to help us from not feeling like, like when we're fulcruming, right? I'm a right-hander, so I'm fulcruming with my ring finger and I'm working, but I'm using my left hand to retract, and oh my gosh, I'm retracting literally on their canker sore, right?
Always.
Or I'm instrumenting and trying to move tissue around, or I'm manipulating the lips or whatever. Yes, of course we're going to be concerned about it, even if they are numb with the PerioVance, but that's a perfect application. That patient can also then take the product home with them to use while they still have that flare to help them as they need it for eating. That's always really painful for canker sores. I had a patient that had, it was never really diagnosed. I think there was an underlying autoimmune condition, but he would get 10, 12, 14, 15 at a time. Large uvula canker sores. I mean, tonsillar pillar canker sores. It was just miserable. And he said, I've been getting them my whole life. I'm so used to them. I'm able to just kind of grit through the pain. This would have been just an amazing thing for him because he'd get them all the time. It was it was consistent. It was every time he came in, he usually had something. So, yeah.
So let's talk about, not only is this something in office use, but you're talking about taking home for patients.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're concerned about some post-op discomfort. You have a
Correct.
patient that's just insanely swollen and you're like, you're gonna hurt later.
Mm-hmm.
Now you only have the bottle in one size. Are you going to send that whole bottle home with the patient?
Yes.
What does that
Yes.
cost?
So it really depends on office, right? So it costs the office around $27 for the bottle to purchase. So it depends on what the office wants to do. Some offices don't want to charge for any products, so they may just say, John Smith, it was $27 plus shipping or whatever, $29, you can have the bottle. Other offices, depending upon, region, demographics of the area, we're seeing anywhere up to $60 and $70 a bottle. On average, it's probably around 45 to 49. But absolutely take home post-surgical, post-oral surgery, post-periodontal surgery, scaling and root planing discomfort. And in those instances, you could give the patient a new bottle that you even open for them to use during their appointment and send them with it home. Or patients that do have the autoimmune flares like lichen planus, canker sores, burning mouth, those are things you can say, we know you have this condition. We know this, ails you from time to time. If you want this bottle, take it home unmixed. And when you have your flares, use it that week. You have it for that week or that week and a half or however long those flares last. And so you have a bunch of options there. Highly effective and actually much indicated for patients that have chemo and radiation. Because of the oral mucositis, those patients most always have. It's a nice courtesy for the patient to know, you have a patient, maybe you have a patient that came in and they have a recent diagnosis. It's something you can say, I realize this, you have this diagnosis. It's very possible you may have very painful oral sores. We have a product for you that will help you. And it's also, because it's not compounded, you've probably heard of magic mouth rinse. That's a compounded rinse that oncologists often prescribe, and it's very expensive for the patients. This is a much less expensive option, and it does a really great job.
Well, in magic mouthwash, nothing against magic mouthwash, of course, but if I remember correctly, it doesn't offer any analgesic properties, right? It's just soothing. It's not numbing.
That I don't know. I'm not actually sure on that, but you might be correct. And ours has aloe vera as well, so that helps with the soothing of the inflammation too.
I do love the ingredients, especially anything that doesn't have alcohol in it. Like, huge fan of that. So no.
You know what we haven't touched on is the flavor. I actually haven't tried it. I haven't switched it in my mouth yet. I'm going to the next time I open my next bottle. Have you tried yours, Amanda? Have you tried it?
Okay, I'm breaking my cardinal rule. I've never tried it, Most patients were fine with it. I had one patient that was like, "This is disgusting." But you have those patients that
Uh,
think the polishing paste is the most
yeah,
disgusting thing ever. So I take that with a grain of salt.
yeah,
Um, so I would still rather have something gross in my mouth for 1 minute than 2 minutes, that actually works
yeah.
personally.
So
So
it's on that note, it's a light citrus flavor. The flavor profile is what we've had the most diverse conversation with patients and clinicians about. I absolutely 150% tasted a very sweet lemon, not a sugar lemon, but not a sour lemon, right? I mean, we don't have any sugar in the rinse, but it tasted like a sweet citrus lemon, very easy to swish with. It's not a mint flavor. I've had patients say it doesn't taste like anything at all. And I think the flavor profile comes from the viscosity of the rinse because it is a thicker rinse for the
mhm,
mucosal coverage. So that sometimes can turn patients off because they go, wow, this is really thick. I thought this was a mouth rinse. They're expecting a Listerine rinse. They're expecting like a Paradex consistency rinse, that really, liquid rinse. And when they get that thickness in, I think that almost triggers the, oh, wow. But generally, very easy and palatable, and
mhm.
something that, when compared to other things on the market, is definitely edges the other items out.
Oh,
So,
definitely. I
yeah.
asked every patient that used it, like, A, how does it taste? And then B, when we're done with treatment, did it help? Right?
Uh-huh.
Every single one of my patients said that it helped. How it tasted, I did get mixed reviews. Some and nobody said it was terrible. All I got was it's it tasted, one person said, like, kind of, it tastes a little creamy. And it's the viscosity is because
Yeah,
it's thicker. Yeah.
I think so.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
welcome, actually.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
That's funny.
Mm.
Yep.
Okay. So what other products? So you talked about PerioVance,
Yep.
but what other products, are you guys gonna be coming out with?
Yes. So I have to be careful. But what I'm very excited about coming very soon, for sure by the end of the year, if not summer, is going to be our dry mouth product line.
Mm,
And why I'm excited about it is because we know that saliva has natural enzymes and proteins. We have lactoferrin, we have lactoperoxidase, we have glucose peroxidase. Those items, those items, those proteins and enzymes work together in our saliva to lubricate and give us the saliva. And when we have xerostomia patients or we have medication induced xerostomia, those proteins and those enzymes are lacking. There is not anything on the market that contains these enzymes and proteins anymore. Unfortunately, there used to be, there is not anymore, and we're bringing products that have that in there. So they clinically, with the clinical studies and the research studies and all of the scientific research we have, we know that we have a slam dunk products. So we're excited to bring those to market. We also are working with a few other items where potentially there may be more coming. So I wish I could just talk about it, and talk about all of the things going on. But one thing that Orabio does really well is we find innovative products, and we work really hard behind the product and the research to make sure that what we're bringing to the table is going to have market validity and really going to help patients and clinicians. So that's exciting for me to work for a company that I know has that at the forefront of how they're developing. And so, yeah, down the line, a few years down the line, there's products that we have kind of waiting in the wings and technology. So we're just taking it step by step. There's a lot of um, leaps and bounds and hoops and jumps and valleys that have to be, that's one thing that's been fun to learn. I'll segue into that. Product development, marketing, how things come to be, how things don't come to be, what processes are there. All of it has been a fun journey. So yeah, stay tuned because we're going to have lots of fun new things.
We're excited. I mean, anything dry mouth, because it just plagues people. I feel so bad whenever you have patients, you just like see their lips just sticking to their teeth.
Mm-hmm.
Like my heart goes out to them. And I know there's a lot of things on the market that help, but man, it's just miserable to see.
And I think too, that's exactly it. So we're working really closely with the Sjogren's Foundation. We have a great relationship with them. They're also an amazing foundation to work with. So shout out to the Sjogren's Foundation. But that's exactly it. I've learned a lot about that, and it's not about just one product for xerostomia patients. There's a lot of great products, and it's finding what works for each patient because not one patient profile is the same.
You are so right.
So, somebody may love this type of dry mouth product and the other patient, it will have no relief from it whatsoever. And so that's where the Sjogren's Foundation works really hard to provide resources for patients that they can have a variety or a catalog of resources that can help them with their symptoms. So it's been a fun project.
That's something I tell my patients, whenever they come and they have dry mouth and we talk about it and they're like, what do you recommend? And I'm like, there's a ton of things that research tells me this, that, and the other will help you. It's not something that I struggle with. So I can't sit here and go through products and test it for you. And so I'll make recommendations of like, try this. I've heard good things about this. But whatever's going to integrate into your life and work with your body is what's going to work. And that is trial and error, unfortunately.
Yeah. And with Orabio too, we have also a great relationship with Forsyth Institute and some of the doctors that work there. And they help us with our research and scientific studies. And so they're really great advisors. So it's a company where the science is first, which is really cool.
That's awesome.
Well, okay, Gina, this like already has like my mind going. The wheels are turning. That we're going to need to have another podcast so we can learn more about these dry mouth products when they are available for clinicians. Because I'm like obsessed with products. I love being like a product guru because that's like Amanda was saying, it's not a one size fits all. Like you got to know all of them so you can help your patients to the maximum, right? And so, yeah, Gina, I already know we're getting you back on for another episode.
Probably maybe September.
Perfect. Oh, this is awesome. Gina, I'm so glad you were able to like carve out some time for Amanda and I tonight. We love closing every podcast with the same two closing questions. I'll let Amanda ask the first one. Go ahead, Amanda.
Yay. Okay, Gina, what topic or concept do you wish you would have learned in school that took you years to figure out as an RDH?
Yes. So, spoiler, I knew this question was coming.
Because you're a dedicated listener? Is that why?
That is why.
That is it.
No, taking PAs or periapicals the right way. So I think that for hygienists, periapicals are crucial for bone diagnosis. And if we're not placing those x-rays correctly where we can see the interproximal space between the teeth, we're missing widening of the PDL, we're missing vertical bone loss because we have overlap. PAs are not just for diagnosing periapical lesions. They may be what the doctor wants to look at that certain time, but if I ever, certainly for full mouth x-rays, but when a doctor would say, take a PA of 30 because I want to, the patient has endo symptoms, right? I'm going to make sure that PA is not just a periapical. It's going to show me the bone, right? Because we want to make sure we know that is there an abscess because there's a periapical, is it because there's bone loss? because there's widening of the PDL. Why? So, and I can't speak for school because it's been so long ago, 2014. I don't remember learning that. And I think if we can diagnose on x-rays with our own eyes, we can treatment plan our patients better because we know then where they're trending. We can see the gradual graying of that margin of that bone. We can see that slope. We can see that, okay, well, there's a 4 millimeter pocket that's going to be trending to 5 because I can see interproximal. So yeah, I wish there was more emphasis on hygiene diagnosis of bone loss in school. And I think that comes from, a lot of it comes from PAs.
I was not expecting that answer. You sound like you are still so passionate about.
Oh, I am. Yeah. Nothing would get me. Oh, I won't go on that soapbox.
Okay.
Temping in offices with other people, and then I look at their x-rays and I'm just like, oh, what are we looking at here?
So many cringe moments.
Yeah.
Temping is such an adventure. You're just like,
it's an
sometimes you come across a gem and other times you're like, I don't know that I want to sign this note. Like, yep. I don't know what I want my name attached to anything here.
Yes.
I really like that, Gina. Just with proper radiographs, we can create the best treatment plans for our patient. And that is one of those little things that if there's an overlap, whatever, it's been somehow accepted to just move on, right? So I love that you said that because we can gain so much data on their bone level through those radiographs. I mean, you guys, Amanda talked about temping, and I'm thinking about when you go to temp and you get that patient that won't bite down on the bite wing, right? And you can't see the bone level at all.
Yeah.
And then you go to do a perio chart and you're like, oh my gosh, this is bad.
There's an 8 millimeter pocket that I didn't see. That's on x-rays. That's another thing. Vertical bite wings. No, they're not utilized near enough. Vertical bite wings should be on everyone that's not a class 1. I mean, honestly, take six of them. Take 3 on each side or 4 on each side. Goodness gracious. I mean, especially now with digital x-rays, it's better to take 2 more digital x-rays than to take a horizontal bite wing that doesn't show bone. Yeah. I would probably be a really mean clinical instructor if I had to be a radiograph instructor.
Oh my gosh. But that's what we need. We need the mean ones. Those are the ones where you learn the most from.
It's true. It's true.
Yep.
Shout out to Miss Green. I love you. She was very hard on us, but I appreciate all of her hardness the most. So anyways, our very last question, Gina, what piece of advice do you wish you could go back and give yourself as a new grad?
Well, this one was really easy. And I wrote actually, the clinic will be your classroom. Your job's going to be your classroom. I had 2, before I left my full-time job, I had 2 hygiene students that were doing sterilization and assisting for us. And they were so nervous that they were going to fail when they got in the real world. And I said, first of all, clinic school is 150 degrees different than working in a clinical setting in an office. And you will learn everything you didn't know from school at your job.
So true.
And you just got to just let it be, because you're never, ever going to come out and work in an office and be ready ever. You throw yourself to the wolves and you just adjust from there. And so that will be that's why I said the clinic or the office will be your classroom.
That's 100% true.
Yeah.
And you know what? That it makes sense because every office has a different level of expectations. And so, you're going to learn what they're looking for and how to please everybody. So you can't learn that. You have to just read the room and pick it up as you go.
Yep.
And patient needs are also different at every office. Every office.
Yes.
It is crazy. So very true.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. All right, Gina, thank you so much. Have a good night. I'm going to post all of the contact information for you, the links you send us, everything, so everybody listening can get a hold of you and get those webinars set up. I think it's super important to get Gina on for those webinars so that your full team can understand how to utilize the product. So Gina, just thank you. I can't thank you enough.
Yes,
Thank
this
you
was
so
really
much.
fun. I feel like my cheeks hurt from smiling. So
Then we've done our job.
that's great. It's been perfect.
Perfect. All right.